Welcome, Wager Talk groupies. This is Faded with Finn. This is the flavor you selected to watch and listen into at this moment in this space and time. I'm Tony Finn, the only host that will ever spit or talk or do whatever I decide I want to do for the opening show monologue, and we'll deliver the good and the bad to the Wager Talk audience. Today's guests on Fade It with Finn, 121 Indianapolis Colts at 122. And the Giants line roughly, depending on when you listen to this, -6, 38, 39 as the total, with the Giants being a 6-point favorite. Both of our guests haven't showed up yet, but let's talk about them anyway. We'll talk bad about a couple of them and talk good about the other two. The Colts. We're fading the Colts, by the way, if that wasn't obvious enough. I mean, I guess we could be fighting the Giants the way they've played recently, but that's not the case. This weekend's shoot, I hope, is a little bit different than last weekend's delivery was. We're going to be on time, be accurate. 2-0 weekend before heading into the season finales. The Giants are playing for their first postseason burst since forever, 2016. Some of you, that is forever. All they need to do is win. There's some scenarios where they don't have to win and they could still get in, but it's a special situation for the Giants, and I'll explain a little bit more of that as we go on. But to guys like Saquon Barkley, who have been hyped as being, the next best thing in sliced bread, yada yada yada. When guys like that have a chance, they if no one else is interfering, and I mean that in a way that I'll again explain a little bit later on in this segment. They have a chance to. They're going to do it, especially against especially the struggling Colts team, who's pretty good defensively. However, they're in. Let's get the season over with mode. Truthfully, if you've watched them play, they were decent last week defensively. They did some things that may convince you that they're still in the game, that their head's still there, their focus is still looking forward and their blinkers are on. It's just not the case. Not that I've played at a professional level, but I played enough games at a high level, even going back to high school. And I played on two different teams, 2 state championship teams. The level was high. And when players are in that zone, in the game, and when they're not. And according to me, and if you've read some of the stuff I've written recently, everything's going completely to plan for the Colts. I don't believe a word that Irsay said when he said this is his boy, his man. He loves Jeff Saturday, that he was part of a special and important part of the Colts organization in their history. He was. It's true he was. He was the quarterback that allowed, he's the guy that allowed Peyton Manning to stick his hands in his crotch for years and years and years. If there's something good about this team, the Colts team, is this front seven, though. They keep trying really hard. They probably will have their share of sacks against Daniel Jones, who don't be fooled by some of the sacks that Jones has taken this year. Some of them are the result of the offensive line being less than at certain points and certain pieces during that front five, but more so because he's a smart guy. He's a Duke grad. He's a smart quarterback, and he knows when to swallow the ball and when to throw it away. As you, being NFL fanatics, fans, groupies, call you what you will, no, that's not the case for a lot of guys. A lot of guys that don't last long. But the combination of like DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, even Quiddy Payne, they've basically shown themselves well, and I think that the Colts will have a good future in that area. So, as much as the football fans in the Big Apple want their Giants to earn a playoff spot, the league needs this one. They need one or both of the New York teams to be part of the postseason festivities. And I can get into, the conspiracy of this all, and that, that I'm some goofy guy out here that believes that this is going to happen because of this. Understand that there are certain adages and certain sayings that I believe wholeheartedly. And, one of those sayings has to do with, what Joe Blow wants, Joe Blow gets. Joe Blow's a special guy, then Joe Blow's going to get it. Now, maybe there's consequences, maybe there's not, but it is the case. The Giants were 7-2, guys, when they took down Houston in the second game of November. 7-2. Since 1-4-1. Some of the regression that this team experienced early on has come full circle, and that was expected. But they're still better than this Colts team on their worst day. They're in the Meadowlands. They're in the swamps. They're in Jersey. And they win this game. They don't even just cover the 6. I mean, I'm more than satisfied laying the 6. Wherever you have to lay with your local or your, or your government supported shop, or even your offshore shop, whatever the case may be, lay the number. The Giants will win this game. Now, for those who don't or may not understand the league's definition of fate, let me lend some transparency and move on. If there's just the slightest chance that the Eagles, for instance, might have to win in Week 18 to secure home field advantage throughout, believe that whatever can prevent that scenario, the league will make it happen. In a division where the Eagles lead this by 2 games, the home field advantage, there's 2 games left. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Minnesota and Green Bay because that's our second guess, those 2. But the dominoes are going to fall long before that game appears and is desperate. The league wants a New York team in the playoffs, not only for the networks, but for football, for the NFL, for the league, for a league that is turning into a flag football league. Make no mistake, the quarterbacks can't be touched. In the next 5 years, we'll look back to what Finn said, or no, 100 people said, not me, and said basically, this is not football anymore. It's not football as camp made football to be. This game's just all about how incapable the Colts are, incapable of being led and incapable of performing to a standard of the level that will be better than the Giants. Guaranteed. The Colts lose their 6th straight, not the 5th of last week. Coach Saturday, Irsay, continue to execute the game plan to perfection. After all, Foles is quarterbacking, right? No breaks, no cigarette breaks, no shots, no beers. Let's go straight to game 2, where our guests, the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers, 127. Minnesota Vikings, 128. Green Bay Packers, Pack anywhere from between 2 and 3 point favorites. Total resting right around that key number of 48. First, ignore all the mumbo jumbo. Players needing 3 inches and a punch in the mouth, that kind of lip service, you know what I mean? Yes, Justin Jefferson needs, I think, 210, 209 yards over the last 2 games to set an NFL single season receiving yardage record. Big stuff, guys. Don't make a mistake that that's not big stuff, but it means nothing. That record, that achievement, it'll be overplayed heading this game on Sunday. Make no mistake about that. The game doesn't mean anything about Jefferson. This game is all about the Packers, who also, like a New York team, the networks want this team in the playoffs. And what better spot than to have them where they are? They have to win 2 straight home games, one against an overvalued Minnesota team. This is not going to be that difficult. It really isn't, especially if we get past the first half and Green Bay is still in the game, maybe even has a big lead. Big lead may be worse yet for the Packers in the situation, considering what the Vikings have done this year. Feel free, in fact, watch this game. Maybe get a game live to the second half. Maybe you can get a better number, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the Minnesota team, guys, that have played 11 one-score games this season. How many of those one-score games have they won? All 11. How many come from behinds have they had? Fourth quarter come from behind victories have they had this season? Fate, my, ASS. 8 fourth quarter comebacks for the Minnesota Vikings. Not at Lambeau. Not against Green Bay. Not against a less than Green Bay team. Not when it means that the Green Bay Packers, Lambeau, the Packers, can make the NFL playoffs. Minnesota's going to make the playoffs, win or lose. They're going to make it. Right? They're in the playoffs already. So Minnesota's won one game this year by more than 1 score. All season, 1. Week 1 against the Packers, 23-7. Bottom line is the Pack enter Week 17 with let's reference major media portal. They enter Week 17 with a 37% chance of making the playoffs per ESPN's FPI. And that moves to 61% with a win, or drops to 5% with a loss. The Pack enter Week 17 with a 100% chance to have Week 18 decide their postseason fate, per the NFL. What the NFL wants, the NFL gets. 2 fades from Finn this weekend. We're fading the Colts. play the Giants. We're fading the Vikings, play the Packers. I am Tony Finn. You've been listening to Fade It with Finn. See you next week. Thanks to Chris Allen and all of his minions in the WagerTalk studios. Bye.